John Maynard Keynes quotes that difficulty does not lie so much in developing new ideas, but in escaping from the old ones. A very good evening to all. I, Hira Birney, on behalf of the class of FY, SY, and TYBA, would like to give my warm welcome to everyone. I would also like to thank our respected principal, Dr. Kiran Magavkar sir, and our vice principal, Dr. Devinder Basim ma'am, for giving us this opportunity and letting us conduct this session on the analysis of the Union Budget 2021-2022. This is a unique exercise that we have started where we, the students of economics, critique and analyze the union budget presented by the government. I would also like to express my appreciation to our teachers, Elizabeth ma'am, Datatre sir, and Swapnil sir, and faculties from other departments for providing us a platform where we can put forward our views. I would also like to thank the speaker for the day and the students who have helped us in organizing this session, and welcome to all the students those who have joined us. So with this, I would like to call upon Datatre sir to introduce us to the topic. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Hira. Uh, Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the analysis of Union Budget 2021-22. The idea of this program originally came in our mind that we, the economics faculty, we were discussing about the uh, faculty development program, which was organized by our college IQAC committee. That was on 28th, 21st, and 22nd January 2021. From Pune, Pathari sir was the resource person who introduced to the faculty Bloom's taxonomy, the concept of the Bloom taxonomy. In that Bloom's taxonomy, it has been mentioned clearly that remember is the first step in the teaching learning, then the understanding is the second step in the teaching learning. Then we are going towards the application, analysis, evaluation, and creation, etc. like steps. Here, what we have is the remember is the first step where the teacher is imparting knowledge into the minds of students. Students have understood it means they have the ability to express those uh, uh, those knowledge, the knowledge that they have gained. Traditionally, our examination system is assessing the writing skills uh, and trying to assess the knowledge of student, that is understanding capacity. But it has been proven that for several times, the presentation made by the student in front of the many people or audience is more effective way of students understanding. So here it's just a little bit step to uh, uh, talking about or the implement the second pillar of the Bloom taxonomy and taking it, raising it towards the application and the analysis. So here, well, program of this, where you can see the students are presenting with the data sets, students are presenting with the technical concepts which are there in the public policy and trying to being familiar with those concepts. So that is what the intention, and here this presentation is enough proof for student understanding and uh, their improvement in their skills. So coming back to the union budget, On the 26th November 1947, R.K. Shanmukham, India's first finance minister, introduced the first budget in the first independent parliament of India. Here, thereafter, several finance ministers introduced the budgets. Total, till now, 92 budgets have been presented in the parliament. The latest one, the 92nd budget, has been presented by the Nirmala Sitharaman. Now, the common thing between the Nirmala Sitharaman and R.K. Shanmugam is both are the economics graduate from the Chennai. And Nirmala Sitharaman has presented this 2021-22 92nd budget in the parliament in 191 paragraphs. Now, these paragraphs have been divided into two parts, Part A and Part B. Traditionally, the Union Finance Minister is presenting budgets in two parts. The first part is more specifically talking about the economic conditions of the present status, present economic status of the economy, and the B part is more talking about the suggestions, that is the changes or amendments in the consolidated fund in general and taxation in particular. So in the first part, obviously, the Sitharaman has made it clear that there are 6 pillars of Union Budget 2021. Out of these 6 pillars, here our students have taken some of them and they are trying to present through this presentation. So overall idea is assuming that diverse background of the audience, we have made it very clear that at the first set, we are going to present the budget documentation. You will be introduced with the budget documentation by Uttara Nigurkar. Then we have the Om Savnekar. Om Savnekar will introduce you people with some of the highlights of the budgets like human capital. Then he will talk on the inclusive development. He will also talk on the how rupees comes in and how rupees goes out. Then lastly, we will move towards the Ashwin Khare, who will present us the fiscal position of the government through the budget at a glance. So this is what our presentation is, a presentation program which you people are going to experience in the next 1.5 hours. So here, first of all, I would like to invite Uttara to present her views or the information on the documents, the budget documents. Yes, Uttara.
Thank you, sir. Hello everyone, I am Uttara Nigurkar. I'll take you through key to budget document and brief about economic survey. As we all know, there are total 193 articles in the Constitution of India. Amongst that, Article 110 talks about the money bill, which is basically the finance bill. Money bills are concerned with financial matters like taxation, public expenditure, etc. The bill is significant for public Indian policy and governance as many important issues like Aadhaar bill, insolvency, and bankruptcy. The finance bill is a part of a union budget. All the legal amendments required for the changes in taxation are proposed by Finance Minister. This bill encompasses all the elements required in various laws in accordance with the taxation policies made in the Indian budget. The finance bill, which is basically the mini bill, needs to be passed by Lok Sabha in the lower house of the parliament, which is the lower house of the parliament. Post the Lok Sabha's approval, the finance bill becomes Finance Act. So these are the 6 pillars of Union budget. First is health and well-being. Second is fiscal and financial capital and infrastructure. Third is inclusive development. Fourth is human capital. Fifth is innovation and research and development. Sixth is minimum government and maximum governance. After that, we all know that there is a budget speech, but along with the budget speech, there are several documents which are being presented. So there are 4 main documents under Union budget and 8 explanatory documents under Union budget. The 4 main documents are annual financial statements, demand for grants, finance bill, and statements under FRBM Act. Annual financial statement is mandated by Article 112 of the Constitution of India. It is also known as budget statement. So basically, this document contains budget estimates, device estimates, and actuals. Receipt and expenditure is again divided into 3 parts: Consolidated Funds of India, Contingency Funds of India, and Public Account of India. In Consolidated Funds of India, all the revenue earned by the government and the loans raised by it are mentioned in it. In Contingency Funds of India, the money reserved for any unexpected expenditure by the government is presented. In Public Account for India, the money kept by the government in trusts such as Provident Fund, Small Savings Scheme collections, and the government income set aside for expenditure on specific objects such as road development, primary education, and special funds. Demand for grants. Demand for grants is a form in which estimates expenditure form. The consolidated fund, which I mentioned in the AFS, annual financial statement, are submitted in the parliament. A government is required to provide details of estimated expenditure in this form. Generally, one demand for grant is presented in respect of each ministry or department. However, more than one demand may be presented for ministry or department depending on the nature of the expenditure. Finance bill. A government submits its proposal in terms of imposition, abolition, remission, alteration, or regulation of taxes to the parliament through this document. This document is mandated by Article 110A of the Constitution of India. Statements mandated under FRBM Act. The budget document includes 3 statements mandated under Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act: the Macroeconomic Framework Statement, the Fiscal Policy Strategy, and Medium-Term Fiscal Policy Statement. First is Macroeconomic Framework Statement. This document consists an assessment of growth prospects of the economy, including the assessment on growth rate, the fiscal balance, and the external sector balance of the economy. Second is Fiscal Policy Statement. This document outlines the strategic provisions of the government. Third is Medium-Term Fiscal Policy Statement. This statement mentions target for 5 fiscal indicators such as revenue deficit, fiscal deficit, effective revenue deficit, tax to GDP ratio, and total outstanding liabilities. Along with 4 main documents, there are 8 explanatory documents which are presented under Union budget. First is Expenditure Budget. The Expenditure Budget includes the estimates for the scheme or program and shown on the net basis on a revenue and capital basis at one place. Second is receipts budget. This document provides details of tax and non-tax revenue receipts as well as capital receipts. It also provides a statement on the areas of tax revenues and non-tax revenues. Third is expenditure profile. While the estimates of expenditure included in the demand for grants are the gross amounts, the estimates of expenditure included in the annual fiscal statement, which I explained earlier, are for the next expenditure after taking into account the recoveries. It includes scheme expenditure, which forms a sizable proportion of the total and a detailed report on working of the public sector enterprises. Budget at a glance will be explained detailed in the further in the session. Memorandums explaining financial provisions, these are aimed at facilitating the understanding of taxation proposals in the finance bill with the provisions and their implications. Along with this, there are three other documents, namely Output Outcome Monitoring Framework, Key Features, and Implementation of Budget Announcements. Here I would like to talk about economic survey. So what is exactly the economic survey? The economic survey is a flagship annual document of Finance Ministry. It reviews economic development in India over the past financial year by giving detailed statistical data for all the sectors such as industrial, agriculture, manufacturing, and many more. Besides it analyzes the whole macroeconomics of the country in the past year and provides an outline for next financial year. Survey is published a day prior to the actual budget, but this year it was published 3 days earlier. Why is this economic survey presented before the budget? Since the economic survey analyzes the overall performance of the economy during the year, so therefore it helps in providing a better understanding of union budget. It essentially helps to understand the priority of a country for next financial year and what sectors we would like to more focus on. What does economic survey documents contain? The survey has two parts. One consists of economic challenges that country is facing, and second is the review of the next year. Is it binding on the government to present economic survey? No. It's nowhere mentioned in the Constitution. However, it is a part of the government practice to present economic survey every year before the budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Uttara. Nice and informative information you have shared regarding the documentation, budget document. So generally we are unaware of this documentation, and was really helpful to understand the budget in more greater detail. So here we can see that our Dean Faculty of Arts, Devendra Ma'am, has joined. And some other faculties have also joined the program. Respective faculties and the authorities, and the same program here. In the continuation with the program, I would like to add a couple of things to the Uttara's presentation that we can see that Uttara has mentioned about the various documents, and 4 main documents in that the most important that should be mentioned, like finance bill. And yes, it is the finance bill that has to be introduced into the parliament, and that finance bill once passed by the parliament, then and get the president accent, then it declared as a finance act. So this year finance bill, when it get the president accent, then it will be declared as the Finance Act 2021, in which the consolidated fund amendments are mentioned specifically. And first, try to understand the what is a consolidated fund. Consolidated fund is the government's record of expenditure and the receipt, where specifically taxes are included, then government borrowings are included, lendings are included. So all those consolidated funds, incoming and outgoing, and their existing system need to be amended in the new financial year. So that amendments have been mentioned in the finance bill, and accordingly, though finance bill is been introduced, and accordingly new financial statement will be formed. That is what about the finance annual financial system and the finance bill. Then returning back towards the economic survey that Uttara mentioned at the end. Now, if we ask ourselves that how economic survey is linked with the union budget, because it's quite obvious that preparation of this 12 document needs some supporting system, and that supporting system is provided by the economic survey. Now, that is why it's a practice that 1 month previous the union budget, the economic survey is being introduced or published. Like on the 1st February 2021, Nirmala Sitharaman presented the union budget. So in the month of January, economic survey 2020-21 was published. Now, what economic survey is generally, as Uttara said, that it talks about the present state of the economy. What is the present condition of the, and generally it published into 2 volumes, and the volume 2 chapter 1 is most probably the state of the economy, which highlights the present condition of the economy. Along with, there are several other factors that in this economic survey you can see the chapter about the farmers, the farm bill, or related to farm bill. So agriculture is having a separate identity. Here, this economic survey has got health as a special, special identity in the economic survey, because of the pandemic or the health issue. Now the health has came at the central stage. So economic survey has also provided the central place to the health. So, but more specifically, we will focus on, there are several other chapters which are explained in the economic survey, which can be called as the supportive document to the union budget. Now, here we will focus on the state of the economic chapter of the economic survey. And here I would like to I would like to thank the Board of Studies of our Mumbai University that the such supportive document like economic survey they have introduced in our syllabus. So what we have, so SYBA in semester 3, the students have already studied the economic survey. So though that economic survey is now students are familiar with it, so it's quite obvious that students are there now. They are familiar with the technical about the, so of the economic in economic survey. It has been mentioned that the last financial year was the major crisis year because of the pandemic, which was the global pandemic faced by the world once in the century crisis. Here, but still, we have not gone through the second wave. At the up to the end of the September, India was in tremendous pressure, but after September, the ease arrived in India. Now we are, in that sense, we are fortunate that still we are not entered into the second phase. But the majority of confirmed cases and death cases, nearly 70% of them are recorded in the advanced economies, American economies, and the European economies, more specifically. That is a very bad phase. So here, but still, the last year was a tremendous pressurized year for all of us. So nearly more than 220 countries were uh, uh, face this crisis given by raised by the this coronavirus 19. So here, with that explanation, we will just try to understand what is economic survey is talking on that pandemic situation. The views are explained in such a way that economic survey is saying that it has created the demand and the supply shocks in the Indian economy. Demand shocks in the sense the loss of job resulted into fall in the income and then reduction in the income, and then social distancing also force the people to reduce the demand up to the necessary products. So it created a huge demand shock and as well as the supply shock. Why supply shocks? Because the movement was stopped, and as the entire movement was stopped, because of that the logistics, the distribution channel entirely stopped, and again the factor of production stuck at a place, and that is why the supply uh, shocks were emerging in the economy. Both resulted into the negative economic growth in 2020-21. But still, here projection says that in upcoming year there is a ray of hope, and certainly we will recover in this upcoming year. So in that way, the present budget has been presented by the Nirmala Sitaram. So with this ray of hope, I am moving towards our next presenter, Mr. Om Saunekar. Now, Mr. Om Saunekar is going to present his thoughts on or the more specifically the budget provisions on the areas like inclusive development, on the areas like human capital, and at the end he will also mention about the rupee, how the rupee comes in and how the rupee goes out. So I'm requesting Prem, I'm requesting Om to please
Thank you,
start
sir.
your presentation.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, Dattatreya sir.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Yeah, can I address the students? Because
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah.
yeah, I would like to leave. I'm not keeping too well. Okay.
Okay.
So yeah,
So,
I
Om,
would just
please
yeah.
stop presentation and please allow ma'am to speak few words. So
I
it
am
will
really
be
very sorry. Yeah.
Sure, ma'am. No problem.
Yeah. I'm extremely happy that economics department from the Faculty of Arts has come up with such a wonderful program where the students have made an effort to analyze the budget. Hearty congratulations to their mentors, Dattatreya sir, Elizabeth madam, and Swapnil sir. I'm sure they have taken a lot of efforts to guide these three students, Uttara, Om, and Ashwin, to put up their views today. But I'm very happy that students have come forward to put up their views. And I'm sorry I will not be able to sit through the entire, though I have heard Uttara, I have heard the entire presentation of Uttara, but I'm sure the presentation must be recorded so that I can go through the recording later on. Congratulations once again to all our students, And please excuse me because my health doesn't allow me to sit through the entire program. I'm sure you will understand. Otherwise, I would have loved to be here because it's a students' program. Datta, you will excuse me, I'm sure. Okay? Yeah.
Yeah, ma'am, sure,
Okay.
sure.
Thank you
But
so
thank
much.
you very much for your
Thank you, ma'am.
enlightening
Congratulations.
words.
Thank you,
Once
ma'am,
again
for your
for
kind
for
being
such
here
a
words.
with us.
Get well
beautiful
soon.
thought.
Thank you, ma'am. Get well soon.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, bye bye. And Ashwin, Om, and Uttara, once again, congratulations. It requires lot of reading and it requires lot of hard work to come up with such a presentation. Thank you so much. I will definitely go through the recordings. Bye bye.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, Om.
Yes, sir. Continue. So, hello everyone. My name is Om Savnekar, and the topic which I will be covering today are human capital, inclusive development, rupee comes in, rupee goes out, and finally, I'll conclude my part by talking about annual financial statement. Now, in human capital, there are two branches which I'll be talking about, and they are first health and secondly education. The healthcare industry welcomed the government's increased allocation for the healthcare sector and said this move will provide access to medical care for all in the country, fuel job creation, and boost economic momentum. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman proposed 2,23,846 crore budget outlay for health and well-being for 2021-22 compared to 94,452 crores in the current fiscal, registering an increase of 137%. Budget estimate expenditure on health as a percentage of total GDP is 1.8%. Mrs. Sitharaman has also proposed a rupees 35,000 crore outlay for COVID-19 vaccines for the next fiscal and announced the rollout of pneumococcal vaccine across the country to help save over 50,000 deaths annually. The finance minister said while presenting the budget for 2021-22 that she has provided 35,000 crore for COVID vaccines and committed to provide further funds if required. As a closure for healthcare sector, here are some comments on the budget by some leading healthcare experts. Manipal Hospital's MD and CEO Dilip Joshi said the finance minister had accorded special attention to the healthcare. The enhanced allocation, along with the plan to look at healthcare holistically, including nutrition, sanitation, clean drinking water, and pollution control, certainly augurs well for the country. In a similar vein, as the DM Healthcare founder and chairman Azad Mupin said, the budget had seen a phenomenal increase in outlay for the healthcare sector with a focus on addressing the key issues facing India today. It is encouraging to see the shift in focus to priorities, preventive care, and well being over just sickness care. Now, moving on to education, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman set aside 93,224.31 crore towards education in the budget for financial year 2022, or around 6,087 crore less than the budget estimate for 2020-21. However, considering that the center had reduced its allocation for the Education Ministry by 14,222 crores in its revised budget estimate for financial year 21, the outlay this time was 9.5% higher. The budget also announced the creation of higher education cluster in 9 cities to improve coordination and collaboration among higher education institutions. Of the total outlay for financial year 2022, rupees 38,350.65 crore was allocated for higher education and rupees 54,873.66 crore for school education. Experts were of the view that barring a few good announcements, the fine print has not been very encouraging, especially in a year when the center is looking to implement the National Education Policy, also known as the NEP. The budget has reduced education expenditure if one compares with the previous BE, which is not a positive sign at the time when the sector is reviving from massive disruption. You put heart and head into the NEP, but where is the allocation? COVID 19 washed out almost a year. We have perhaps missed an opportunity to implement NEP 2021 effectively, accelerate change, and improve infra and other aspects of the sector, said Narayana Swami Ramaswamy, leader, education and skill development and consulting and auditing firm KPMG. Now, talking about inclusive development, this slide contains subtopics such as agriculture, fisheries, and migrant workers and laborers. The Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, in her budget speech, said that there has been a significant increase in the procurement of rice and wheat, and money paid to farmers has jumped remarkably since 2013-14 when Modi government took over. She said that the amount paid to wheat farmers has gone up by more than 121%, while the amount disbursed to rice farmers has gone up by massive 170.23% during this time. The statement of Finance Minister is significant at a time when a large number of farmers are protesting for a legal guarantee to minimum support MSP price, fearing that the government will end the MSP system after implementation of the three farm laws aimed at freezing up the agricultural market. The government, on the other hand, has reassured farmers that MSP system will continue and will be further strengthened. Now, talking about fisheries, fisheries has been recognized as a sunrise sector and has demonstrated an outstanding double-digit average annual growth of 10.87% since 2014-15. The sector has reached record flash production of 142 lakh tons in financial year 1920 and has immense potential for growth. Moreover, it has been instrumental in sustaining the livelihoods of over 28 million people in India, especially for marginal and vulnerable communities, and has contributed towards meaningful socio-economic development. Cognizant of the sector's crucial role is national building, the Department of Fisheries, Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry, and Dairying has committed itself to the vision of ambitiously expanding the sector and accelerating its growth. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, in her budget speech for financial year 2021-22, has allocated an amount of rupees 1,220.84 crore for the Department of Fisheries, which is the highest ever annual budgetary support for the department. This market has 34% increase over the budget of financial year 2020-21. Further, this includes an allocation of rupees 1,000 crores for the flagship scheme of the department, Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana scheme for financial year 2021-22, enhanced by 43% from financial year 2020-21. Finance Minister has announced substantial investment for the development of modern fishing harbor and fish landing centers. To start with, 5 major fishing harbors like Kochi, Chennai, Visakhapatnam, Paradim, and Petughat will be developed as hubs of economic activity. Further, inland fishing harbors and fish landing centers will also be developed as hubs of economic activity. Further, inland fishing harbor and fish landing centers will also be developed along the banks of rivers and waterways. This is a welcome announcement as fishing harbor and landing centers are central to the growth of blue economy and fisheries trade and are closely linked to the socio-economic development of fisheries and coastal communities. The 5 fishing harbors and landing centers will be upgraded and modernized with state-of-the-art infrastructure and amenities like end-to-end linkage, seamless cold chain supply, and hygienic handling for enhancing quality of fish and export competitiveness to benefit over 40,000 fishers. Technologically advanced deep sea fishing vessels with modern supporting facilities will also be rolled out for optimally harnessing the potential of EEZ and high seas. thereby doubling incomes of fishermen and other stakeholders. This will also facilitate collective and registration of fishermen, fish workers, and fish vendors associated with the fishing harbor and landing centers into Fish Farmer Producers Organization. Lastly, it's about migrant workers and laborers. He said, One nation, one ration card will benefit migrant workers, textile sector, and other workers. Beneficiaries can claim their ration anywhere in the country. This scheme is being implemented by the Ministry of Food and Public Distribution. Those staying away from the families can partially claim their ration where they are stationed, while their family in their native places can claim the rest. The setting up of a portal for the unorganized labor work by this ministry is progressing as per the schedule he added. The portal will collect relevant information on the gig building and construction workers, among others. It will help to formulate health, housing, skill, insurance, credit, and food schemes. The portal will be rolled out by May or June 2021 for registration and other facilities of the workers in the unorganized sector, including gig and platform workers and migrant workers. Enrolled workers will be provided with an incentive of free coverage for a period of 1 year for accidental and disability cover and Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Bima Yojana. Now, talking about rupee comes in, taking a look at the avenues from where the money comes from, here is a breakup for the same. According to the budget 2021, the major contributor is borrowing and other liabilities, which is 36%, goods and service tax, which is 15%, income taxes 14%, corporate tax 13%, union excise duties is 8%, non-tax revenue 6%, non-debt capital receipt 5%, and customs 3%. Now I'll be sharing some data about the previous year. When compared with the current financial year, borrowing and other liability contributes 20%, corporation tax 18%, goods and service tax 18%, income tax 17%, non-tax revenue 10%, union excise duty 7%, non-debt capital receipt 6%, and custom receipt. So we can basically see that there is an increase here. Now is the turn for expenditure. The government plans to spend rupees 34,83,236 crores in the next financial year with a revenue deficit of rupees 15,06,812 crore. According to the budget 2021, in the current financial year, the revised estimates show an expenditure of rupees 34,50,305 crores and a fiscal deficit of 18,48,655 crore. The interest payment will get the maximum portion, that is 20%, followed by state shares of taxes and duties 16%, central sector scheme 13%, finance commission and other transfers 10%, other expenditures 10 subsidies 9%, centrally sponsored schemes 10%, defense is going to be 8%, and lastly pension will be 5%. Now, coming to the last part of this particular PPT presentation, I'll be talking about annual financial statement. And a part of this, statement one is the most important part, which is also called as Consolidated Fund of India, which includes revenue account receipts, revenue account disbursement, capital accounts receipt, capital accounts disbursement. Statement 1A says disbursement charged on Consolidated Fund of India. Statement 2 says Contingency Fund of India, receipts and disbursement. Statement 3 says Public Account of India, receipts, disbursement. And lastly, receipts and expenditures of union territories without legislature. As I earlier said, statement 1 is going to be the most important part here. So Ashwin ahead will talk more about statement 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Om. And, really, it was a great presentation, and you tried to concentrate the many parts of the budgets into the your presentation. And here, more specifically, you presented the inclusive development, that agriculture, fisheries, etc. So more specifically, I would like to uh, uh, add one one point on these MSP. So when I am talking about the when we are talking about the MSP, minimum support prices, so nowadays there is a huge debate going on the MSP, but government has made it clear that government is giving the higher MSP to these on these crops like wheat, rice, and so on and so forth. And government is saying that we are committed to give the high MSP, and they have given data also that which provides that farmers are receiving the higher MSP. But now, when government is talking about the higher MSP, one thing I would like to make it clear that now government is walking on the line of comprehensive MSP calculation of the comprehensive MSP formula. So earlier, traditionally, we were calculating the MSP, which was a normal formula. Here, this comprehensive MSP concept take me to our economics concept of accounting cost and the economic cost. All of us have learned that accounting and economic cost. Here, accounting cost is more specifically the straightforward cost which can be seen in the account, but the economic cost include that imputed payment which has been not been paid. Like a farmer, when produces the product, the cost which can be seen is a fertilizer cost and the seeds and the cost of production, the cultivation activity, labors, etc. But the imputed cost incurred by the farmer, like farmer's own effort and his family effort, that are totally neglected. But here, the comprehensive MSP is considering that imputed cost also and calculating the higher MSP, which are certainly beneficial to the farmer. Hope the farmers will welcome this decision. Uh, that was about the MSP decision of the in the agriculture. Then, while OM has touched many parts, as I told that OM has touched many parts of the main highlights of the budget, or six pillars which are declared by the Sitaraman in part A. But as a student of economics, I see these six pillars in our production function equation. That is, Q is equal to F of K and L. That output is a function of the capital and the labor. So that simple production function of the economy is, suppose Q is equal to production of all goods and services in our economy, then the money value of Q is certainly the national income. And the growth rate of that money value of Q is economic growth rate. So if we want a more economic growth rate, we have to boost the K and L. And here K is physical capital as well as the financial capital. And what is L? L is the human capital, that is mainly depend on the health and the education. So here, out of six pillars, I am explaining right now the four pillars out of. So four pillars. These are the physical capital, the financial capital, the human capital, that is labor, human capital in the sales, health and education. So these are the four pillars which are coming in this product. There is one more additional pillar that has been introduced by in economics literature by Joseph Schumpeter in 1911, when he published his great work of and published it as a theory of economic development. Joseph Schumpeter said that the innovation is a factor which enhances the productivity of all existing factors your national output. It has a capacity to enhance your national output by many fold. What is that? That is innovation, and that has been the fifth pillar here that can be seen in the Sitaram's budget, innovation. Along with this innovation, we find one more pillar, which is more specifically part of the welfare economics. That pillar is inclusive development. We know that positive quantitative changes in the national income is the economic growth, and if that economic growth is coming with the equity and elimination of poverty, inequality, etc., evils, then it is economic development. And if we are able to achieve the growth rate of the poor, means if we are equip our poor to grow by themselves, by self-employment, then it is an inclusive growth. And inclusive growth, the further concept of inclusive growth is an inclusive development, which is the sixth pillar of Nirmala Sitharaman's budget. So that is what the all the six pillars that can be concentrated in the production function equation. That is a Q is equal to F of K and L. That all students all the economics studied at the elementary stage. So that is the thing about the six pillars. Apart from these six, there is one more important pillar that I have identified in the part A of the finance minister's speech, that is the fiscal position. And that is very important, the fiscal position. Now, without understanding the fiscal position of the present budget, it is quite difficult to say that we have presented a successful budget. So here I am inviting Ashwin Khare to present your presentation on the fiscal position with the help of budget at a glance document in budget, union budget. Here, Ashwin, please.
Surely, thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ashwin Khare, and I'll be presenting before you the Budget at a Glance document. Now, the Budget at a Glance document is one of the most important document of a budget, and it gives us a very beautiful and a root analysis of the union budget. So, for which I'd like to present my screen. Okay, so Budget at a Glance explains all the data related to the union budget in a reader-friendly manner. The budget is a list of expenditures and receipts of the government and lays out the ways and means in which the government will allocate its resources. Here I am presenting the statement number 1 of the annual financial statement, which is the Consolidated Funds of India. The Consolidated Funds of India is divided into two parts, which is the revenue account and the capital account. The revenue account further gets divided into the receipts, revenue receipts, and the revenue expenditure. The revenue receipts, as you can see in the tree diagram, the revenue receipts gets divided into the tax and non-tax revenue receipt. The capital account gets divided into the capital expenditure and capital receipts. Now, what are these terms? So, revenue account is an account with a credit balance. It includes all the revenue receipts. Revenue receipts are those receipts of the government which neither creates any liabilities nor it creates any reduction in the assets of the government. Revenue receipts are further classified into tax revenue and non-tax revenue. Tax revenue can be further classified into direct and indirect tax. Revenue expenditure are the ongoing operating expenses which are used to carry the government works or government expenses. Now, talking about the capital account on national level represents the balance of payment for a country. Capital account keeps track of the net change in the nation's assets and liabilities during a year. As I said, capital accounts can be divided into two: capital expenditures and capital receipts. Capital receipts are the receipts that create liabilities or reduce financial assets of the government. Loans from general public, foreign governments, and RBI form a crucial part of the capital receipts. The second part of the capital account is capital expenditure. The capital expenditure are one-time large expenses or purchases of fixed assets that will be used for a revenue generation over a long period by the government. Money from capital expenditure is money spent by government on a development of land, health facilities, infrastructure, etc. Now, talking about the total receipts. Total receipts are total of revenue receipts and capital receipts. Total receipts basically mean the total amount of money received by any taxable service provider in exchange of his services rendered, including commission or charges. Total expenditure is the total expenditure on revenue account plus total expenditure on the capital accounts. Revenue deficit. Talking about the revenue deficit indicates that the government doesn't have sufficient revenue for normal functioning of the government departments. Basically, when government starts spending more than it's earning, it leads to revenue deficit. Talking about the fiscal deficit is when the expenditure of the government exceeds its revenue in a financial year. And basically is the difference between the two. Fiscal deficit and the revenue deficit both are calculated in absolute terms as well as the percentage of a country's total gross domestic product, that's GDP. The fiscal deficit of the country in revised estimates of 2020-21 pegged at 9.5% of the total gross domestic product due to the pandemic. Now, on the left hand side of the screen, you can see different components of the budget, which include the blue ones, that is revenue receipt, capital receipts, total expenditure, revenue, and the fiscal deficit. These are the most important ones. Now, but here we need to know what are the pillars of the table. What are the major pillars on which the table is proposed? First is the budget estimates. Now, what are budget estimates? Budget estimates or BE are the amount of money allocated in budget to any ministry or scheme for the coming financial year. Budget estimates are presented by the finance minister before the start of the financial year. Revised estimates is the next thing which we need to know. On the right side of my screen, you may see the budget estimates of the year 2020 and the year 2021. What are revised estimates? Revised estimates are mid-year review of possible expenditures, taking into account the trend of the expenditure. The revised estimates are presented in the budget in between of the financial year. On the right side of my screen, you can see the revised estimates of the year 2020-21. Now, the third thing which we need to know is what are the actuals. The actual reflect how much revenue an account has actually generated or how much an account has paid out for its expenditures. These actuals are presented by the government after the financial year is over. That is the only reason for which we can see only the actuals of the year 2019-20. Also, I'd like to tell you the GDP for the year 2021-22, according to its budgetary estimate at current prices, has been projected at rupees 222 lakhs 87,379 crores, assuming 14.4% growth over the estimated GDP of 194,81,975 crores for the year 2020-21 according to the revised estimates. Now we can see a graph of revenue receipts. All the source and the information to be presented on the further coming graphs has been taken from the Budget at a Glance document 21-22, which is available on the site of indiabudget.gov.in. Here in this graph, we can see a comparison between the revenue and non-revenue receipts, which will be plotted against the x-axis having the actuals of the year 2019-20, the budgetary estimates of 2020-21, the revised estimates of 2020-21, and the budgetary estimates of the upcoming year, financial year 21-22. According to the graph, the actuals of the year 2019 and the year 2020 show a non-tax revenue of rupees 3,27,157 crores and a tax revenue of rupees 13,56,902 crores. We can see there's an increase in the non-tax revenue as well as the tax revenue according to the budgetary estimates of the year 2020-21. But according to the revised estimates of the same year, we see a significant fall in the non-tax revenue, which is 2 lakh 10 2,10,652 crores, and a tax revenue also decreased from 16 lakh crore to 13 lakh 44,501 crores. The difference between the budget and the revised estimates of the year financial year 2020-21 can be observed due to the lockdown related restrictions and the resulting economic slowdown of the country. However, the government has shown a recovery in the non-tax revenue and the tax revenue according to the budgetary estimates of the year 21-22, which are 2,43,028 crores and 15,45,396 crores. In my next slide, I'll be telling you about the capital receipts of the government. Capital receipts, as mentioned, capital receipts are hello. Okay. As mentioned, capital receipts are the record which create liabilities assets. Here in this graph, we see a comparison between the capital receipts and the government borrowings or liabilities. We can observe how capital receipts are affected due to the COVID-19 global pandemic situation, seeing the RE of 2020-21. According to 2019-20, the actuals, the capital receipts were 10 lakh 2,271 crores and the borrowing were 9 lakh 33,651 crores. The budgetary estimates of the year 2020-21 shows the borrowing will be decreased to 7,96,337 crores. But the revised estimates of the year 2020-21 show a very different scenario. We see a very huge rise in the borrowing and the capital receipt made by the government. The borrowings reached a peak of rupees 18,45,655 crores and the capital receipts also increased to 18,95,152 crores. Therefore, a sharp increase in the flow of capital receipts can be observed in the revised estimates of 2020-21. Such huge rise in the borrowings of the government was caused due to the COVID-19 global pandemic. In order to incur the cost of the medical facilities and the packages made available by the government for the citizens. However, government plans to decrease the borrowings and the capital receipts, which can be seen in the budgetary estimates of the year 21-22. My next slides tell about the revenue deficits of the government. Now, the revenue deficit can be calculated in the absolute figure and in the GDP percentage. In this graph, the absolute figures and the GDP percentage are plotted against the actuals of 2019, budgetary estimates of 2020, revised estimates of 2020-21, and the budgetary estimates of this coming financial year. Revenue deficits indicate the government does not have sufficient revenue for normal functioning. Revenue deficit either leads to increase in the liabilities in form of borrowings or reduces the assets through disinvestment. According to the actuals of the year 2019-20, the revenue deficit was recorded to be 6,66,545 crores, which contributed to 3.3% of the total GDP. Now, obviously, the government in the budget estimates of 2020-21 said it will lower the revenue deficit in the financial year 2020-21, which they predicted to be 2.7% of the total government expenditure. But we observe a high upsurge of the revenue deficit in the revised estimates of the financial year 2020-21, which was 7.5% of the total GDP, that is, which contributes to be 14,55,989 crores. This high upsurge in the revenue deficit was due to the global pandemic, as from the common man till the government, no one was ever prepared for such pandemic, which created a lot of disturbance in our economy. And at such time, maintaining a balance in the economy becomes very, very difficult. As we are in the post-recovery phase of this pandemic situation, the budgetary estimates of the financial year 21-22 shows the recovery and estimated revenue deficit are said to be 5% of the total GDP. So, in the upcoming financial year, we may expect the revenue deficit to reduce and bring stability to the economy. Now, this second last slide of my presentation shows us the fiscal deficits of the government. Fiscal deficit is when the expenditure of the government exceeds the revenue in a financial year. It's basically the difference between the two things. According to the actuals of the financial year 2019-20, we see that fiscal deficit was 9,33,651 crores, which is 4.5% of the total gross domestic product of the country. The government estimated it in its budgetary estimates of the financial year 2020-21 that fiscal deficit would be 3.5% of the total GDP. But the revised estimates of the year 2020-21 show the total different scenario. The fiscal deficit increased at a huge scale and settled at 18,48,655 crores, that is 9.5% of the total gross domestic product, which is very huge. However, as we are in the post-recovery phase of the pandemic, we can expect our economy to get balanced and settle according to the budget estimates of the year 2021-22. The finance minister in the budget estimates 21 and 22 projected the fiscal deficit to reduce and settle at 15,06,812 crores, which is 6.8% of the total gross domestic product of our country. Now, talking about the economic recovery of the country, as a conclusion, I'll say the economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic has caused unprecedented damage to the global world, and India is not an exception. It is clear that for the first time in many decades, India's economy contracted significantly. As the present slowdown in economic activity is both a function of external factors such as lockdown and behavioral changes of people and enterprises. As the Budget 21 lays foundation for a resilient economic recovery, the budget also lays foundation through its economic reforms and commitment toward an Atmanirbhar Bharat and a better economical India. Thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot, Ashwin. And here, really, you have made very clear the fiscal position, financial position of the government. The data which are available on the indiabudget.gov.in that presented by the Ashwin, and he presented those data sets through the graphs, and really they are helpful to understand these graphs. At the beginning of the financial year 2021, when the budget estimates were introduced, nobody was aware that this much severity takes place, or seriousness will increase. So because of that, the budget estimates of 2021 were very low. But the spike that can be observed in the revised estimates of the same financial year, which were introduced in between the financial year, that spike only because of the serious situation emerged due to pandemic. But what about the future? So future is always calculated with the help of projections, and these projections are scientist projections which are based on the statistical analysis. And worldwide, it has been accepted that from the pandemic situation, the country, India, will recover soon, and it has been accepted at the international platform also, and government has also that the financial year somewhat in which we can again. So that is what the presentation of the Ashwin. Certainly, here I remember the golden lines which are mentioned in the 2021-22 budget itself in the paragraph number 13. It's a Dr. Rabindranath Tagore quote from his famous book Fireflies. Quote, faith is the bird that feels the light and sings when the dawn is still dark. Unquote. And here we know that still there is a darkness, but yes, we the human beings are those birds who started singing, and because our history has proven that whatever tragedies, crises we have come across, but on an average, if we look our path is the growth path, and we have progress. And certainly, with this word, we can have the word of ray of hope that certainly now the sunrise will be there and the birds have started singing. So projections are positive, which are being explained in these slides. But although these projections and talking about these lines, still let's be more practical, and these practical things remembering me to take you to the 15th Financial Commission report, which was submitted this December 2020. Now, Sitaraman also mentioned that 15th Financial Commission has been report has been submitted. That commission is recommending that for the 2021-22, government should keep the fiscal deficit at 6.5 in a slow economic recovery phase. But still, the government has kept the projection at 6.8, which is slightly higher than the Finance Commission recommendation. It means government, as per Finance Commission recommendations, that if we walk on the 6.5 in the next financial year, then up to 25-26, certainly we will achieve 4.5 fiscal deficit. But certainly, as the government has started slowly than the expectations of the 15th Finance Commission, but still the situation is not out of control. There are signs of recovery, and certainly our economy is going to recover. That says our projection. And with this word, I also want to add one thing, that in the 15th Finance Commission itself, if we look at the debt to GDP ratio, India's total debt to GDP ratio before pandemic was roaming around 70%, which increased nearly to the 90%. That is total debt to GDP ratio. Certainly, here center is contributing nearly 60% of it, and the states are contributing nearly 30% of it. Together, it is nearly above 90%. So, if you want to reduce that debt to GDP ratio, which has increased so much in a tremendous manner due to unforeseen expenditure, what we can do is we have to obey the 15 Financial Commission's fiscal deficit targets. And if you work on these targets, then Finance Commission says that up to 25-26, India can able to reduce that debt to GDP ratio by at least 4 to 5%. Nearly we can achieve once again the 85% to 86% of the debt to GDP target. Okay, so that is what the view is. Certainly, with these words, here now we have reached at the end. Before talking about the end, here I just wanted to revise the things and highlight some important aspects that are there. Om has mentioned that healthcare came at the central stage. Certainly, the healthcare expenditure compared to the last year budgetary estimate increased by 137%. The education expenditure dropped from 99,000 crore to 93,000 crore. Still, we have the National Education Policy, Higher Education Commission that may bring the favorable reforms in the education let's hope for better. Then we have the financial capital here. In the financial capital, government is going to take one of the bold step that SEBI Act, the SEBI, which is a Security and Exchange Board of India, in the Depository Act and the Securities Contract Act. These three contract act going to subsumed into one, and they are going to create the single securities market code that will increase the ease of doing business in the financial market in India. And let's hope that the more foreign institutional investment will tap the Indian financial market. Now, because of the multiplicity of the regulators, there was difficulties in entering into the financial market, but now these can be removed. At the same time, the IMF prescribed treasury single account system. Government is going to adopt treasury single account, which is very effective in management of borrowing. And so certainly it has proven that many governments of the world has observed their borrowing came down only because of accepting treasury single account system. Now, what is this treasury single account system? Now, what happens when government is allocating budget? It gives different ministries. Different ministries are keeping their money in different bank accounts. So once the money is distributed from the finance ministry, it goes into various accounts, thousands and lakhs of accounts, government accounts, and for many days or months, these funds are pending idle. So that is why here this system was introduced in the Nigeria. Now it is more effective, although it is based on the based on the technique that all those thousands of government accounts are going to be subsumed into one account, and it will be considered as one account only. And their different end accounts are going to be operated, but at the end of the day, the all money will be considered as the same money. And it has been proven that because of this, the government able to reduce the debt burden, or government able to reduce the demand for the fresh loan the for the meeting government expenditure. So that is what really it's an impressive measure of the treasury single account that government is going to undertake. So with this word here, really our three presenters, Uttara, Om, and Ashwin, they have presented uh, uh, this budget in a more technical sense. And now it's a time to the question and answer session. So here I would like to invite all of you to raise your questions or queries.
I have a question. Can I ask?
Yes, please.
What is the meaning of disbursement?
Disbursement, it's a distribution of money, funds. Yes, please. Any question? Any feedback? There are many students who are present. Certainly, you people want to give some. You people are welcome.
There is a question from Chinmay.
Capital receipt. I think the question is for Ashwin. Chinmay, and it's for Ashwin. Ashwin Khare.
Yes, capital receipts, capital receipts are the receipts that create liabilities on the government or reduce the financial assets. Capital receipts can be loan which are taken from other governments or international loans. Uh, that's it. Capital receipts, it's that much.
And also,
Okay. I can take you further. Yes, ma'am. Please, ma'am.
yeah, disinvestment proceeds can also come there.
Yeah, also disinvestment. The privatization of the government companies can be known as a disinvestment of through which the government tries to increase its revenue, and that's it.
Here, I would like to add one more point, Chinmay, that I was talking to our students regarding the basic accounting principles of the industry. Suppose you are running a firm or industry, you have a business enterprise, then you have to maintain two types of account. One is the income statement, and another is the balance sheet. Now, here the government is also presenting its budget in the sense that it's a revenue, expenditure, and the revenue receipts are like presentation of the income statement of the government, and the capital receipt and the capital expenditure is a presentation of the balance sheet. Now, capital receipt. What are the capital receipt? We can say that if your any entry which increases your liability or decreases your asset, then that can be considered as a capital receipt. Suppose government is taking loan from the World Bank, so government liability has been increased. Government, so that is why the borrowing is coming into the capital receipt, and that is why you can see Chinmay, when Ashwin was presenting, the revenue deficit was falling in the pandemic. So when we observe the difference between 2021 budget estimates and 2021 revised estimate, revenue deficit increase. Okay, so revenue receipts, revenue receipt decrease, but the capital receipt increase. Why the capital receipt increase? Because government borrowing increase, government liability increase. Okay, capital receipt can also be increased by reducing the assets. Like if government now talking about the selling up of LIC IPO. So selling up of LIC IPO means government is selling the assets like LIC, and whatever receipts government is going to incur by the sale of the LIC, that will come under the capital. I hope, Chinmay, it is clear. Yes, I hope there are some questions in the message box. Is the BOP, Sakshi?
Yeah.
Is the BOP is also included in the capital receipt? Okay, Sakshi. So here the BOP means balance of payment, right? So you want to say balance of payment, BOP?
Yes, sir.
Yes, balance of payment. When we are talking about the balance of payment, once again, you can see the entire government account into the balance of payment, because once again the income statement of where the government's revenue account as a current account in the balance of, and the capital receipts are the payment also, because capital accounts of payment also. So the same payment also, transaction, which is the record of international transaction, is mentioned in two ways, that income and the balance sheet record. So suppose here, if there is a foreign direct investment in India, So money which is coming in, bringing foreign direct investment, it is capital receipt, because it is actually they are creating their assets, and that is why they are capital receipts, and it is our liability actually. So in that sense, or even the money goes out, which suppose the Tata Motor is creating, establishing a factory in the South Africa, so that can be capital expenditure from the balance of payment account. So here we are going to foreign trade actually. Once again, I'm trying to focus you all to the government budget itself. I hope Sakshi, it's clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now there is one more question among the presenter. Is anybody try to anybody want to answer, or should I?
So you just want the full form of FRBM, right? So it is Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. It was released in the year 2003. Hope that answers your question, Anupama Nair.
Yes, but I want you to elaborate it more, like if possible.
Okay, so do you want some more information about it?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
you can go ahead with it.
Yes, certainly. Here, FRBM, Fiscal Responsibility and Budgetary Management Act, was passed in 2003. What happened, Anupama, before 2003, or even in before 1990? In 1991, we have economic reforms. Do you know why economic reforms were introduced in 1991? Because we had no other choice. Economic reforms were not Indians' initiative. It was the conditions of IMF which put forwarded on India to came out of the crisis, and that crisis started only because of increasing government expenditure beyond the limit. What was happened? The fiscal deficit. So what was happened? The fiscal deficit was increased beyond 7.5, 8%, etc. in the decade of 1980s and 90s. And because of the increase in the fiscal deficit, it enhances government borrowing beyond limit. So FRBM Act was introduced. So in spite of this 1991 economic reform, government was tentative towards increasing government borrowing, because government borrowing is like a temptation. So to reduce that temptation, the FRBM Act was introduced, by which the check on the government borrowing can be put by this act. I hope you understood.
Yeah, little bit.
Anupama.
Yeah, little bit.
Okay. Any other question?
Hello, Dattatreya sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Congratulations to the students, and a great work, and really they have put in a lot of efforts. It's nice to see the students coming up with such a good work, deep study of what they have done, the analysis. Now, really, I do not really know the technical terms of all these budget terminology, to be very frank. I just had one thing, if you can just throw light on the something related to the pensioners after 75 years or 70 years, some age limit, something they have put up. So if you can just throw light on that part, because other aspects I really technically I cannot go into that. I really can't have any question on that.
Yeah, there is something government has really mentioned on the, but actually we're focusing on these. Actually, really I missed that which you are talking. So
Okay, fine, sir. No problem. Thank you.
yes, ma'am. Hello.
Yeah, we can get back to you,
But
Ravi
certainly I
madam.
will,
Ravi, Yeah,
Yes,
madam,
yes,
we can
sure, sure.
get back to you regarding this
Ma'am, I
topic
can
on the
just
pension.
share some information about it if you want,
Yes,
Very
okay.
related to
good.
the
Okay,
pensioners.
sure.
Yeah,
Yes,
sure.
yes.
So the new thing is that when you receive your pension now, the income, the tax which you have to pay, it will directly be cutted before it comes to you, right? So the new
Yeah.
thing which they have introduced, it's gonna be that less headache for you. Like you don't actually have to go to that particular place of all the tax problems. It is gonna be reduced. That's it. Nothing else.
At
Uh,
source.
at source, yes. Okay. Okay, fine. Thank you, Om, for your effort.
Surely, ma'am.
And frankly speaking, really, the technical aspects I really do not understand of the budget. So, but then what I observed was deep involvement of the students in whatever they were presenting, and I'm really happy to see my students. They are my students also, so it's nice to see them doing such a good study. Congratulations to you all once again.
Thank
You,
you.
ma'am,
Thank you
for
very
your
much.
kind words.
Thank you, ma'am.
Welcome.
So I think we have reached to the end, and so really it's appreciable thing that faculties have appreciated our program, and henceforth certainly it's a great motivation from them, and certainly it will be like great experience of learning to all of us. So now I am handing over to the Netra and inviting her for making the vote of thanks.
So here we have come to an end of our seminar today. So I would like to thank our principal, Dr. Kiran Mangaonkar sir, and our vice principal, Dr. Davinder Kaur Bhasin madam, for giving us the opportunity to conduct this seminar. And now I would like to thank our mentors, Elizabeth ma'am, then Swapnil sir, Datta sir, for giving us this opportunity to, giving us this platform basically to discuss the budget of 2021 and 22, encouraging us to make presentations over it. And here I would also like to thank the teachers who have joined from different departments. It is a big pleasure for us to have you all here, and the students, be it from SY, BA, TY, BA, or even FYBA. Thank you for joining us today. And of course, the TY batch of economics, all the students who have joined us today, thank you very much for joining. Then I would also like to thank our IT team of the college for providing the technical support, because this is also going live on YouTube. So thank you for that. And of course, my friends, namely Ashwin, Uttara, and Om, for preparing these beautiful presentations about the budget. And hopefully, we had a good discussion over it. And I hope you all enjoyed it. So, have a good day ahead. Thank you so much.